Throughout history, many cultures have believed that to have one's photograph taken is to lose one's soul to the camera.
I went to...
As far as the conversations go, we just try and, as you know, all our lyrics are improvisational. We make everything up on the spot. And, the conversations prior to the show kind of feed that. And, it allows us to experiment with ideas and get the juices flowing.
My grade 6 teacher was Mr. McCartney. He was a really good guy. Gave me good grounding for on my way to junior high school. I spent grade 7 in
There was a week and another week revolved completely around you because you were in the hospital, and I stayed there with you the whole time. And it was, oh, thanks, big deal.
When my head gets lost, it makes my misery cease.
Day, almost fitting for the atmosphere of what's going to be happening in this church tonight. Tonight is going to be the night where family and friends and fans all alike are going to come together in solidarity in the memory of the boys who've been lost, Graeme, Tim, Bob, and Dennis. So it's going to be somewhat of a funeral service, an emotional event, all in the name of the loving memory of Grand Theft Bus.
Well, I just thought it was appropriate that I be here because they were my best friends, really, and I haven't seen them in so long, and this memorial service is, it's a good remembrance of them. I'm going to sing Amazing Grace in remembrance of them, and I think we'll just take a couple moments of silence and, remember them.
Just our way of having closure. So this is going to be it's almost like our funeral for them.
Who's going to be attending?
Pretty much all their fans, their families, friends.
And tonight we're going to do a kind of a gathering and try to put them to rest.
fall of 2003, Grand Theft Bus set out to make rock history. The well-known Canadian indie band and newly signed world record recording artists had begun production on their fifth album, Rubarbicon, and had recently hired filmmaker Greg Hemmings to document their rise to success.
Recording an album. We are in Moncton at Creative Sound Studios. This is one of 3 studios we've been in so far, and making this album.
Drummers are scarce in New Brunswick. I don't think there's any that really are, even reasonable.
It's my brand new toy there, the Magnus. And that, speaking of expression, like we talked about before, I think is the most expressive thing I've ever played.
Some people say I'm a little cocky.
Well, I started by, ever since I was a kid, and since Graeme was a kid, our mother was always playing the piano, and Dad played the triangle. Eventually, Graeme and I decided as we get older and get practicing our singing, and we had joined a couple choirs ourselves, that we realized the potential in singing at weddings.
Tim and I are brothers. Back in the day, well, how many years ago? Geez, probably 13 years ago, 12, 13 years ago. We were in the wedding singer business, and kind of stemmed from there. We started out lip syncing everything, and then moved to live singing and whatnot.
Sorry about the sun. It's
That's okay.
it's what happens when the clouds.
Sorry about the daughter.
In a completely unprecedented move, World Records gave Grand Theft Bus complete creative autonomy and a massive budget. Grand Theft Bus chose to exploit this by choosing not 1 or 2, but 3 separate studios in which to create their masterpiece.
I'm throwing this out to everyone, Dennis, but you should hear it. What would happen if Dennis played the new riff that he's playing right now for one cycle, and then played what he used to play over the second cycle? What do you think of that, Dennis?
Rubarbicon!
Grand Theft Bus is well known for their use of such unorthodox techniques as the Rubicon method of decision-making, circular conversation, and vocal warm-ups like ooglies. They continue to use these methods to live up to their own high standards in the studios.
Fa, 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 fa.
Retarded.
Basically, the ooglies is, it's a face exercise, or more of a, from the base of the neck up type exercise that works all the muscles, and it gets us ready, not only with the muscles, but it gets us mentally prepared for the show. I mean, it's a trying task to get on stage and trying to be true to yourself musically when you can't stand anyone else that you're performing with.
The origin of the band's name has been the subject of much debate amongst the musical community.
How did you get to the name Grand Theft Bus?
Constable Gogan was involved in a big operation in St. John where they caught a bunch of kids stealing a bus. It was all over the news, all over North America. I'm sure everyone's heard about it. And yeah, he charged those kids with grand theft bus, and we thought that was funny. So away we go with it. We kind of ripped it off, but it's the nature of the beast. You know what I'm saying?
So I was quite honored when they kind of coined my my quirky little joke there. It really kind of made me happy.
So this is the Grand Theft Bus.
The Grand Theft Bus. Yes,
this is where the guys got their name.
Yes.
That is interesting.
0800 hours. Okay. Received a call that a bus was stolen from the school board. The bus had an identifying number on it. That number was reported later to be picking up several of the local students, and coincidentally, dropping them off at school on proper time.
You're talking down my day with all the useless things that you say. And look at you, way up there. You're not alone in your powerful chair. You look down from your stash. You're unaware that you can inhale cash. I only wish you could see how your actions are hindering me. How can you disable our future? How about we settle the score? Why are you this rival to nature? Fun everything to ignore. Why do you ignore?
World Records senior vice president Jay Cleary personally signed the band just 3 days after seeing them bring down the house at Tobacco Road in Lower Manhattan. Grand Theft Bus had been making inroads into the New York City scene, and industry insiders had promised Cleary he would not be disappointed.
Can I come in?
You Greg Hemmings?
Greg Hemmings. Hey man, you must be Jay. I'm Greg.
Jay Cleary.
We spoke on the phone earlier.
Hey, nice to meet you. Yeah, I gave them full creative control on this album. It's like one of the first time that we ever really given a band, artistic license fully for a major label release, and I'm kind of nervous a little bit about it, but I've yet to hear the new Rubarbicon CD that
Rubarbicon.
So I'm kind of nervous. Haven't talked to them in a while, but we advanced them quite a bit of money.
How much to the tune of what?
Almost $50,000.
Right now, I'm working on an album with a band called Grand Theft Bus. The album is called Rubarbicon. Don't ask me to tell you what that means. I have absolutely no idea. Yeah, I'm enjoying the recording process. I like the music. It's a little bit, a little difficult sometimes. Possibly some personality conflicts. The fact that I have one and they don't.
Owner-engineer James Shaw was charged with capturing the new controversial sound of Grand Theft Bus, which they eagerly awaited unleashing on fans.
After I graduated from Santa Fe with a jazz vocalist degree, I had to pay off my student loan. So I decided, through a friend of mine who was already connected through the cruise ship industry, he hooked me up with a job to go down to Bermuda, sail around there for a while. So I, took advantage of that situation.
So what were you doing on the ship?
I was singing in the jazz band. Blue moon. Yeah, I had a really hard time adapting the singing and playing at the same time.
I have heard though, like some comparisons between you and Don Henley.
Who's Don Henley again?
The drummer for the Eagles.
Right. Yeah, I don't know.
Does it?
No, I don't think so.
No.
No, he's no me.
So do you ever look back and wish that you were still like the front man of Grand Theft Bus?
Well, I wasn't actually the front man of Grand Theft Bus. It was under the development is the name, yeah.
Right.
So, you know, I have no experience singing these songs, so I don't really miss being the front man of this band. I do kind of miss being in the front, like being the center of attention. I like to have everyone staring at me, and it is really hard to be back in the back where no one can really see you and no one really pays attention to the drummer, you know?
3/4 of Grand Theft Bus emerged from the ashes of a defunct wedding cover band called The Development. Perennial favorites in the annual Blushing Bride magazine Readers Poll, The Development took home 2 Weddy Awards in 1993 and 1994 and had an entire edition of the magazine devoted to them in the fall of 1996. The Development garnered many fans through their awards and packed wedding receptions throughout North America.
If you can tell me about how the development came about and where you met your 4th member, Dennis, and when.
Okay. Well, eventually we realized that a lot of the church music we were doing was fun and a lot of the wedding music, but, you know, we had some creativity that we had to get out, and that outlet became the development. And it was just 3 of us at first, you know. We had the guitar, the bass, and the drums, and then Bob was singing as well as myself and Graeme. Eventually Bob's drumming became a lot more complex, and singing became trouble. Or he began having trouble singing while he was playing, so he decided to just concentrate on the drums. So anyways, we were playing a gig one night at it was at a bar mitzvah, I believe, for our friend Nelson, and Dennis was there. He was just a friend of his or whatever, and told us about how he played guitar, and a couple other people told us about how good he was and the skills that he had and his talent. And so we brought him out one night. It was a house party in Hampton. We were playing as the Development, and he played along, and we just clicked.
The one thing that was unique was, you know, he had a group. It was him by himself. It was called the one-man trombone brass band, and I mean, that was something else. He was, you know, figuring out all these new ways to play the trombone, so it sounded like 3, 4, and 5 different instruments at the same time, or, you know, different pitches of trombone and stuff, all with one breath.
I had my own band, the RMTBB, the one-man trombone brass band. I started out in, 90s, I guess, obviously. It's the 2000s now.
Yeah, he was doing various tours with that. I mean, you know, gained a lot of respect and a lot of attention from industry people. He was all over the world with that, as a matter of fact. So, you know, that's something that we'll probably try and incorporate into this band eventually. I mean, you can never have enough trombones, that's for sure.
That's true. What type of covers would you do just with a trombone?
Sammy Davis Jr., some Glenn Frey, you know, stuff like that. You know, I did the main theme song from the first Cannonball Run. That was kind of tongue-in-cheek, but it was funny. So a friend of mine, I had a bar mitzvah, and I met Tim there, and you know, ended up sitting kind of beside him and overheard them talking about music, and I think I was talking about music with someone, and so I, you know, ended up saying, so, you know, blah 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 blah, you play music too, and so yeah, we started shooting the shit, as some would say, but and things just progressed from there. We really got along, and our ideas totally seemed to work together, and they were really impressed with what I had done with the OMTWB.
We had a dream, she was plastic, and her colors brightly shone, and her face was like elastic, stretched for miles around the sun, and her eyes were energizing everyone. In the sky, cloudy systems forming under her command. With a wish, she could create them, cast her shadows on Andy Britton. They begun with a waving of his hand. She dons the morning sun, floods the ground with rays. In this afternoon of dreams, she dons the morning sun. still. Her creations just because. She aligns with a portion of his head. He's all he is, questioning what's real. He knows that she's controlling how he feels. She dons the morning sun, floods the ground with rays. In this afternoon of grace, she dons the morning sun, floods the ground with rays. In this afternoon of taller Cranston's The Ice Show.
Bowing to a fan's wishes, Grand Theft Bus decided to perform once more as The Development for one final show after a 2-year hiatus at a wedding in Detroit.
So what's bringing you to Detroit?
I'm here for a wedding of Larissa Vogler and Robin Dunn. I'm very, very excited.
And you've got a nice little surprise for them.
I do. I arranged to have The Development come tonight and provide us with entertainment. I'm so excited. So excited. They're so well known for their wedding tunes, of course, like Taking Care of Business, Poison's Every Rose Has Its Thorn, one of my personal favorites.
I'm supposed to say I'm here for Larissa's wedding, but really, I heard that Development was coming.
Yeah.
And I'm so, I've been waiting for this moment forever, and I've traveled for so long. I traveled 4 hours.
Are you good friends with Larissa?
Well, yeah, we went to university
Would you
together.
have been here otherwise?
If Development wasn't coming?
4 hours.
Yeah, it's 4 hours. Come on, like really.
So I'm assuming you're pretty excited that The Development is playing the last show here. Grand Theft Bus going back to the name of The Development for this one last wedding show.
I'm not a big fan, to be perfectly honest with you. I mean, have you heard their version of the chicken dance? It's just entirely disrespectful to the original.
You don't know Robin?
Robin and
Larissa.
I actually, okay, here's the thing. I heard that when Grand Theft Bus, who I don't like when they started writing their own stuff and all that, I'm not into that.
You're not into their original stuff?
No, I really prefer them more as The Development. Now, I was touring with them, going to all their shows, supporting them and whatnot, and I just found I didn't like the new stuff. Then I hear reunion tour. It's at the Larissa and so-and-so's wedding. So I come down, I put on the old uniform, and did you like that?
That's beautiful.
I wouldn't say I sneak into other people's weddings. I would say I like to. People have made fun of me for this, but what I like to do is celebrate as a whole the whole idea of marriage, and then what I do is happen to go to the ones where The Development is playing.
Actually, back in the day when they were playing like some cover tunes, they were rock solid. These guys. You should have heard them play. Have you heard them play?
Now that they're Grand Theft Bus, are you going to continue listening to their music, or?
I'm not into that new stuff. I'm just not into the new materials.
Covers all the way. Thank you.
Using this rare wedding footage from the Development archives and state-of-the-art technology, we can almost see what Robin and Larissa's wedding would have looked like had The Development bothered to show up.
More than just a name. It's for the better life. Things will never be the same.
Isn't that funny?
It's almost so. Usually talk. What's going on, Robin?
Man, you don't want to know.
Are you having an alright wedding so far?
It was alright. It was alright.
something about your telephone call that you had a few minutes ago? What's going on?
I'm supposed to have this band coming. I was supposed to have a band coming tonight, right? You know about that?
Yeah, the development. Yeah.
They ain't coming, mate.
And when you were up at the head table tonight eating your meal, that was wonderful, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
What were you thinking when Robin picked up his cell phone?
I just can't believe it. I can't believe it. I'm so let down. I want my money back. And not only do I want my money back, I want my day back.
Having the band was like nearly as important as having the wedding, you know what I mean? I think it's an excuse to have the wedding.
The wedding cameraman can't show up, fine. The wedding still happens, we're still married, fine. But when you've been planning for months and you've arranged something to happen and it doesn't I'm upset, but mostly I'm angry. And I have to try not to take it out on the groom because
It's your wedding day.
it's my wedding. We're married, obviously. Now it's over. We're married. It's too late, but I can't help but feel a little bit resentful that he took that away from me more than him. The development took that away from me because they're not here on my wedding day. And
It's okay.
it's just not right. I mean,
It's okay. You are the father of the bride.
That's right.
What's your feelings about the fact that the development hasn't showed up?
I think this is bullshit. This is
Yeah.
my daughter's wedding, and they have no consideration for anybody. It's bullshit, man.
Oh.
After 8 years of unprecedented commercial success in the wedding band business, bubblegum pop and disco covers gave way to a new, darker, inaccessible, some would say self-indulgent sound. Grand Theft Bus was born.
Started listening to a lot more avant-garde stuff, and that's where the pop kind of met the strangeness.
So how did you make that convergence from being kind of like a poppy band to this bizarre stuff that nobody can understand?
Basically, originally we decided that we wanted to entertain people, and that's fine. That is part of it, that you have to entertain people, but at the same time we weren't necessarily entertaining ourselves. So we decided to just swallow the big pill and do it and just do what we wanted to do rather than do what people wanted us to do. And we lost some fans in the process, but like you said, there's a lot that stick around. And like I said, a lot of people come. They don't actually like the music, but as I mentioned before, like it's a vehicle for them to get their frustrations out. Like their detest for the music, it just brings something out of them that they wouldn't get at some bubblegum pop that they would like.
Right.
Success appeared to have an adverse effect on at least one member of Grand Theft Bus. Dennis, lead guitarist and keyboardist, began to show, some would say, his true colors, refusing to talk to fans and shutting himself off from the little people who made him what he was.
I was told that you got a rule of thumb that you don't talk to anybody in front of the stage. Why is that?
Well, it doesn't necessarily trying to verbalize this, not sound like a prick. But maybe I am, because I don't know, a lot of the time people just really annoy me. They piss me off. You think about what I do, I have to put up with sometimes. I mean, you've obviously met the other guys. It's hard to get time by yourself sometimes, and eventually, you just have to freak out at them and they won't shut up sometimes. It's kind of annoying. Anyway, it's not a management problem. I'm fine, whatever. It's anger. Everyone gets angry, and there's not a problem with anger. It just depends on how you deal with it. I think I deal with it fine because I express it sometimes. I'm expressive with it, and some people don't express their anger. So one day they might end up killing someone, where I will not.
Goodwin's lack of consideration for the fans began spilling over to his relationships with other band members. If success is a rose, and every rose has a thorn, Dennis Goodwin was becoming a prick.
Kind of explain, maybe it's really not my business, but what would be a freak out? Say, back when you guys were all touring in the same van,
Well, if he's driving and all of a sudden, we're doing 110 kilometers an hour down the highway and he pulls it into the ditch, randomly, just lightning fast, and, things are thrown and gears flying everywhere, and he gets out and starts kicking the side of the van and bashing windows out, and for no reason, no reason.
Why would someone do that?
I don't know, but you know, as long as he keeps playing the way he plays. And
have you guys ever like mentioned to him that your lives are at stake?
Oh yeah, that's no bearing on him. He doesn't care.
Well, what about the time that you took the van? I'm only laughing because I couldn't believe Graeme told me you did this.
No, that was...
you took the van and you whipped it off the road, and you almost killed the whole freaking band. Like,
I feel so. I was kind of angry at first, and I was kind of doing it. It wasn't like I was like, oh, I'm so angry, I'm pissed. It was like I felt angry for a little while, and I was angry. Then I kind of, you know, sometimes you're feeling angry and you realize you kind of have to slap yourself in the face, like, what am I doing? I'm kind of being selfish here, angry, and whatever. I had no reason to be angry, so I was kind of, it's such a regret. I was kind of doing it to, I wanted to just give a little scare, and then we'd all laugh, and it would be like a ha ha ha. Sorry guys, I didn't mean to be such a, you know, such a pain, and I just didn't think right, and I didn't execute what I wanted to do properly, and we tipped her, and had some injuries, and I regretted that ever since. Sometimes I feel like taking my instrument and expressing myself with that through music really helps me out. But sometimes I feel like expressing myself with that instrument through other means is just as f***ing good. And if something pisses me off, well, if there's a window there and I have my guitar, bring out the expression.
So, tell me about the show tonight.
Oh, it was great, you know, Dennis. But, you know, he's a prick. And I wait for him after concerts, and I send him love mail, and he never replies.
Really? Je m'appelle Camille.
Oui.
Et je viens justement j'ai entendu parler de Grand of Bus en France, donc je me suis dit, oh, bah, je vais aller au Canada, je vais aller voir Grand of Bus. C'est absolument miraculeux. Et absolument, en fait, je viens à peine de le remarquer maintenant. It was fantastic, and I wanted to
Oui.
C'était vraiment génial et voilà, c'était magnifique.
Nowadays, and I enjoy them sometimes. I mean, they're alright. So I come along with her, and the whole time she just sits and she watches Dennis all the time. And I'm starting to think something's up because I got this letter back in the mail the other day. It was back returned to the house, and it said Dennis. I was like, what is this? And she just wouldn't answer. She grabbed it from me right away. I just don't know what's going on. Do you have anything to say about this?
I don't know what you're talking about.
You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Have you had some words with Dennis yet about this?
Not yet.
Maybe you should.
I've been meaning to speak with him.
Maybe you should.
Maybe you should have some words. He seems to be saying,
He
"Oh, your
doesn't talk
message is
to
bad."
me. That's the
what's
problem.
gonna-
He's a prick, remember?
Oh, what's gonna make him talk to me? My girlfriend up there keeps talking. Do you know anything about this? Keep sending you letters, huh? 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 It's nice and tender. But why do you keep talking to my girlfriend? She wants to talk to you and you never talk. I just don't even understand what's going on here. She's right up there. Jordan! Here she comes. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Look,
He
look at this
doesn't, he
girl.
doesn't talk to too many people.
He doesn't talk. You got something to say to this guy?
All my friends like you. And you just snub us. Why are you such a prick? I'm talking to you. See, this is what I'm talking about.
Are you
After
the only
the
one?
shows? No. If he would look up there,
Look at
he'd
all the
see
girls
all the
waiting
other
for him.
people.
I have a problem with it. Either you figure it out, or I'm leaving.
No, I'm still a little bit unclear about how you respect your fans. Like, they respect you. You seem to not respect them.
You don't fucking get it. You don't fucking get it at all. You're a fucking idiot. You said something about this the last time. I said next question, but you don't fucking get it. You don't fucking get it. You're a fucking dildo. You're a fucking dildo. You don't fucking get it at all. You don't need to know that. It has nothing to do with you. You're a fucking dildo. You're a fucking dildo.
Holy man, you gotta chill out a little bit, eh? Yeah, that's
Dennis, this is not your place, man.
It's not yours either, f***head.
People are built to be broken. In the winter of 2002, Grand Theft Bus embarked on a 17-day Caribbean tour, including 2 stops in Cuba, Iglesia de Marina Cantina Church, and Paddle Sun Resort in Havana, Cuba.
So we decided to throw a little bit of an evil spin on the show tonight to make them realize that, you know, there is some bad stuff that goes on in the world as well, and, you know, nothing represents bad like a good old couple of gargoyles, and, you know, a little bit of a satanic goat head theme we got going on here as well, so, yeah.
Metal! Do you find that your music is kind of shown through that?
Yeah, I think
a little bit of evil and darkness?
I think yes, it's getting more and more that way, and I think it'll be reflected tonight, especially because we're going to play in E minor all night long.
There's a whole different side to life.
We be back.
We got this church here and slowly trying to get it together. Usual problems with the guys and their demands. As you can see, they're putting up all sorts of crazy images, and we're trying to get the technical stuff together. But they demanded to have the artists come in and do all this stuff, and we're about 8 hours behind right now.
Because of the artists?
Yeah, due to their demands to have this specific artwork in here.
What's the artwork?
Well, you can see, we're in a church, and of course they want to put up gargoyles and satanic symbols.
The band comes over, and the kids are excited. We get to the resort, beautiful resort, as you can see, and we set up the band, and they show up, walking up on stage in diapers made of the Cuban flag. The devil worshiping, that was like, these people, they were relying on God, thinking about God. To the devil worshiping, that was enough.
The next night at Paddle's Sun Resort, at the request of the Cuban government, Grand Theft Bus dropped the satanic theme of their Caribbean touring show, but riled the crowd even further by wearing Cuban flag diapers for their encore. What the hell's wrong with these guys? In the summer of 2002, for the release of their new CD, Jack-O-Lantern, Grand Theft Bus garnered themselves a reputation as the band that doesn't show. Booking 57 shows over 2 months, the tour was disastrous and disappointed fans across the country. Grand Theft Bus was a no-show.
Basically, the cross-Canada tour thing, we have friends from coast to coast, people that, well, they do similar stuff to us in other parts of the country. And they know how to work the media as well. But anyways, yeah, we got a bunch of our friends in each town to show up and pretend that they were us and just get up there and try and play our music. And yeah, I guess it pissed some people off. But again, the end result is it'll be worth it.
Tell me about your CD release for Jack-O-Lantern.
The CD release for Jack-O-Lantern was pretty much a huge gimmick. We had no intention at all in the beginning of going across Canada. I mean, look at the money and effort and time it takes out of a day.
Yeah. So what did you do to organize it?
Well, we booked a whole tour, maybe like 57 shows, I believe. Really busy, like within 2 months, 57 shows. That's a lot of time, which we weren't willing to spend on the road. But we figured if we could just like book people for booking acts, and then maybe get them to go and like set up the situation so that we would use their gear, you know. And hopefully, you know, most bands are pretty willing, you know, if they're opening up, that they'll, you know, be honored to let you use their gear, unless they have some kind of ego problems. But anyway, aside from that.
So you guys would hire?
Yeah, well, we'd hire
bands.
the opening
Yeah.
bands, yeah, and then we just, you know, have no intention whatsoever of telling them we're not showing up. But then they'd end up having a whole show to themselves, and then, you know, we thought that would be good exposure for them too. And us all at once, because they'd get a whole, you know, a room full of people, and we'd get, you know, our recognition for being the band that never shows up.
It was a good idea in theory. There was a lot of upset and disappointed Grand Theft Bus fans across.
Well, Alone in the House of Janet, they had a really good turnout. I think I heard about that. Yeah, they had like a really good show.
Hi, I'm Pierre. I'm from Alone of the House of Janet. I play drums, and here's Gabrielle. I'm the bassist.
Don't treat me like that. You're taking on to me. You could cherry on top. In my heart, romance, I myself might stop.
So we just started up to learn a few songs at first. Then we just made a setup for about 4 songs. Yeah, 4 songs. And then we made a show.
The crowd was expecting Grand Theft Bus that night.
Oh yeah.
But how did they feel when Grand Theft Bus didn't show up?
Well, I don't know if they noticed that. Well, they were there to listen to Grand Theft Bus, but they don't know Grand Theft Bus. They don't know who are the guys. So yeah. We just we're gonna play the songs and it's gotta work.
Were there people there that thought that you guys were Grand Theft Bus?
Yeah, thank you. So yeah.
Really? I don't know. How did that feel?
Well, it's quite amazing. It's pretty hard for the fans who were expecting to see Grand Theft Bus there live, but for the people who don't know Grand Theft Bus, they don't really care about that as long as they think that it's Grand Theft Bus and they hear some great music.
We did a great job, you know? It was great.
I don't know about you, but if you're spending money to go see a band, you expect to see them there. Well, so I'm in lineup and I'm really excited. I'm there with a couple of buddies and we're like, yeah, we'll go check out Grand Theft Bus. And now I've been freezing my ass off for a couple of years, listening to Grand Theft Bus in Iqaluit. Super pumped to see these guys. So we're out in lineup, get in there. Band comes on. This doesn't look like Grand Theft Bus to me. No, it's some cheesy French band from Montreal. So needless to say, I got up and I got pissed drunk and then fell down and left the show, you know.
We planned a cross Canada tour, and the whole deal was, you know, Grand Theft Bus goes to whatever city across the country. We get there,
or we don't get there, people show up to the show and, you know, pay their $10 at the door or whatever, and it's not us. It's a local hired band that we hired. Anyway, we got various national news people to cover the event, and yeah, it wasn't us.
I mean, on the third album, it was just utterly ridiculous, some of the stunts that they were pulling. I couldn't believe it, you know, like they'd book these shows and then have other bands play for them, and they'd have a tribute band doing Grand Theft Bus songs. I mean, who wants to see Donnie and the Monarchs, you know, dressed up in their suit and ties, playing Grand Theft Bus tunes? It just doesn't work.
Well, again, the motivation behind all of these media stunts that we pull is it's to build tension in the fans. And one day it'll all pay off, you know? One day they will see us, and, you know, they'll get to hear the music that they actually hear on the albums played by the actual people.
I mean, I understand that it's all about like getting attention and shock value, if you will, but you can take it too far. You know, people's, you know, you got to realize that with music, you're really playing with people's emotions, and you're playing with people's hearts, really, pulling heartstrings. And you know, I think there's a fine line between what's funny and what's not funny. You know, what sells and what doesn't.
And I'm raging. I've known the guys for a long time, and I don't know. It's just I send a guy to the airport to pick them up, and they're not there. They don't call or anything. And I hear from this other guy. I don't even remember his name. You know him. Whatever. They're not going to come because of the Jimmy Swift band.
What's your thoughts on Grand Theft Bus not making it here to the show?
It was one of the biggest disappointments of the show for me.
Yeah. Were you one of the ones that waited in line to get the tickets?
I don't need to wait in line for tickets, but I'm disappointed. I saw them in Ottawa, in Halifax, and I really enjoyed them. And I'm an acoustic jazz guy, but I just think that if they live long enough, they're going to do a lot.
They've never played. They've never been to Newfoundland. I myself have seen them dozens of times in New Brunswick. Tell them about all the hype in Newfoundland. They should come. They should come to George Street, party it up. Everybody would love the dancing tunes.
Sir, you were here to see Grand Theft Bus.
Yes, I was, yeah.
And
very sorry. We waited for him all week and he never showed up.
So what do you think about that?
I don't think very much about it.
Yeah.
It's very sad.
It's disappointing, isn't it?
Disappointing.
Yeah. Well, hopefully next year they'll be able to come.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Welcome to Evolve.
I guess I'll start this interview like I've done all the other ones with the most recent events is me waiting for you at the airport and the ECMA crew waiting for you at the airport to pick you up. Lots of fans in Newfoundland waiting to see you for the first time, and you guys don't show. What's the deal? Is it funny?
It is funny.
You guys paid me to go out there to be prepared for you guys to get, to get the shots off the airplane, with the rock cases and everything like that.
Yeah.
A lot of people bought tickets to see your show at the ECMAs, but there's no show. It's kind of, it's turning into a little bit of a pattern in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little bit about the whole no-show deal at the ECMAs.
It was more or less of a ploy that we stuck with for our CD release tour. It's kind of kind of gimmicky. Not that we're a gimmicky band too much, but we had our tour where we didn't, we stayed in St. John for it and everything. It was good and had other people play for it, and a lot of people got upset. Some people found humor in it, as we did. Or I did anyhow. I found humor in it. And that, and just some relations with some people and stuff like that. And just, it's not a competition. Awards. It's for sports, it's for football.
Because people are still going to show to see if we show, right? And one of these days we might. On that tour there was 33 dates. We didn't do any. The tour before that there was 11 dates and we showed up at 3. Yeah.
And it's been working.
Yeah, it's been working fine. Well, I mean, people are still hanging on, right? People are.
True.
Yeah, people are still coming. Apparently.
Well, we already made a name for ourselves, with our whole cross Canada tour, like the whole CD release thing. It's like, you make a name for yourself, you get known as something, and then people recognize.
So you guys are striving to be known as the band
that doesn't show up.
We got the call and we're supposed to, they had this crazy idea for their tour, and we were supposed to play this show, and we got egged because they didn't show up.
We were up at 3 with our sleeping bags outside waiting for tickets, and we spent a lot of money. But I'm in love with them, and I can't help it. No matter how many times I get burned.
The chick thing.
Dennis, he speaks to the heart of a woman. That's the language that he uses.
That's half a golden arch, and I think they're a bunch of arch holes for doing this because they put on the shows. And I mean, I had to be Grand Theft Bus one night, and I'm just a sort of a 3-chord folk songwriter, and all of a sudden I'm supposed to be up there being a jam guy, and it was
I remember that a lot of people were laughing at you.
It's only a matter of time before, the fans will catch on to that,
Yeah. But what about the fans?
Well, what about them?
Do you care about them?
I love them.
You don't.
If they're man, if they're real fans, I mean, they're gonna understand who we are. I mean, if they can't get that through our music, then whatever. But I mean, obviously, in the future, it's kind of like when you get embarrassed in grade 6. You know what I mean? It's shitty at the time, but 12 years down the road, you look back at it and you laugh.
I don't really know if there's any picture that Grand Theft Bus necessarily fits in. They seem to really not want to fit into a picture. In fact, it's like they're not part of any picture. It's the fact that they're just not nice people. And in the scene that we're involved in, you pretty much have to be a nice person to survive and flourish in our scene. And you get a bunch of guys like that, kind of makes you wonder, what's the scene all about, really?
Well, the other thing that you have to remember is those guys, they're professional actors as well. They all spent, lots of time acting, and they're obviously good at fooling people, being something they're not.
It seems like they're hell-bent on, making enemies and pissing people off. Last time I saw Tim, I was just talking to him at a bar, and he pretty much punched me in the face for no reason.
Well, basically, Mercer won a spelling bee in Sydney. I think it was in grade 6.
Yeah.
And man, he's been tooting his own horn ever since. He tried to respell our name. He tried to McDougal. He tried to tell Mike McDougal that McDougal had 2 O's and not the OU. And he and Mike, to this day, they don't even bring that up anymore. But anyways, yeah, seamless sets. We had a friend of ours, Tom Giberson. He was making up a poster one day, and he called me about the spelling of seamless set because he wasn't sure himself. So I told him, I said, it's, you know, it's S-E-E-M because it's, you know, it seems like there's, you know, the bands don't stop. You just, you know, if you're listening to it, it's going to seem like it doesn't even, you know, the bands don't change. So I said it's a seamless set. Anyways, Mercer caught wind of it, flipped his lid as usual, brought back the spelling bee friggin' antics from back in the day, and decides that, you know, that's not the case and it's going to be S-E-A. So we show up at the gig, I see the poster, it says S-E-A, and I had a few beers, I mean, whatever, we like beer. You like beer. And I see him, I'm like, man, what's up with this? I said, it's S-E-E, dude. And he's like, man, I'm telling you, it's not. And, well, I took my ring off because, you know, he's got nice teeth, and I didn't want to mess those up because none of us have dental plans in bands. But anyways, so yeah, I knuckled him, man. And he respected it. Mercer's he doesn't like to fight. He likes to yell and scream, but he's not a fist fighter. So, he took it like a man. Once he came to, we shook hands, and that was that.
Grand Theft Bus's amazing streak of luck was about to come to an abrupt end, and their success about to go up in smoke. In the early morning hours of December 23rd, 2004, Grand Theft Bus made a stealthy escape from Redfish Audio with the masters to their new record, Rubarbicon. Upon their arrival in St. John, New Brunswick, the band convened at their rehearsal space. Nobody knows what happened that night, but after an earlier evening complaint for sound disturbances, the police responded later to see the building ablaze.
News time 11:05. A fire last night in St. John, New Brunswick may have claimed the lives of all the members of the well-known indie rock band Grand Theft Bus. The nighttime blaze leveled the building owned by the band and used as a rehearsal hall. The weather last night was unseasonably cold, and that hampered firefighters in their attempts to control the fire. Police and fire officials are still on the scene sifting through the rubble. The investigation into the cause of the fire continues, but police fear the band members were in the building when it collapsed. Still missing are Dennis Goodwin of Hammond River, Graeme and Tim Walker of Quispamsis, and Bob DeVoe of Cape Breton. In other news... Yeah, well, I live just around the corner from the house that burned, and the one owned by the band. And I don't know. They're up. They're there all the time. They're practicing all the time. I got to get up early. I got to bed early, and the noise they make. I've called the police on them on occasion because they're just too loud.
Right. Have you met them?
They're rude too.
I've known the boys for a while. As you know, their jam spot was in my primary zone. We received several noise complaints all the time, actually, of the boys playing too loud and too late. So, police would go down and ask them to turn it down. Being a bit of a musician myself, I come to know the guys and developed a strong bond with them. All right, we're at the site of the former Grand Theft Bus jam site here. I'll just show you what remains now, I guess. The jam spot was on the second level. It was an older building. There wasn't really a lot of escape routes.
Really?
As you can see by the building, it's undetermined if there's anyone inside. Fortunately, it's going to be a long process with the fire department and police investigation to remove the debris and search for the missing individuals at this point. It's a hard time for the family, so it's unfortunate. I'll never Never forget this one, that's for sure. This is, you know, after a hard shift or a half call, I come down here and just reflect upon, you know, the job and certain incidents I've been at. Earlier that evening, I received yet another noise complaint call to attend to the jam spot to ask them to turn down. Had a brief conversation with them and went on my way. A couple hours later, received an emergency tone call. I, along with fire personnel, responded to the jam spot. You know, I thought it might have been, you know, the guy just cooking up some hot dogs or fire on the stove, you know. I came around the corner and noted that the whole building was engulfed with flames. There was so much smoke, you know, maybe the guys were in there, you know, trying to get away from the building. It's horrific. I haven't slept a good night since.
Speak. The world begins to speak with you, and you scream. The world begins to scream, and you fall. The world begins to fall with you, and you fight. The world begins to fight. You get what you give. You get what you give.
Every year, fans of Grand Theft Bus gathered in the band's hometown of St. John, New Brunswick to celebrate New Year's Eve at the Gothic Arches Church. But this year's celebration would be replaced by a memorial service.
Here I am. It's a really rainy day. It's almost fitting for the atmosphere of what's going to be happening in this church tonight. This is the church that Grand Theft Bus used to come and play a lot of shows for the youth groups in this particular church. And in turn for doing that, the minister of this church let them have the church for every New Year's Eve party. This New Year's Eve, of course, Grand Theft Bus is not going to be around to have the party. So tonight we're going to have kind of, I guess, a little bit of a funeral service for the guys. It's going to be an emotional time. So in about a couple hours, we're going to have quite a few people come in to spend their New Year's Eve in loving memory of Grand Theft Bus.
Time and time again, everything's coming our way. Comes unraveled like the end of it, never be found.
Why don't you tell me a little bit about the idea behind having instruments on stage for the service tonight?
I think it's just kind of symbolic for everybody, just to kind of be able to just say goodbye in their own way, I think.
We have their original instruments and just have them up on stage just for memory. And
what's going to happen with the instruments now that...
We're probably going to auction them off because they're no good just sitting there doing nothing. We're going to auction them off and give them to the charities.
You know, just the whole development of them, seeing a bunch of guys I grew up with. I just gotta check 1 2 check 1 2.
Well, it's been, I guess, about a month now since we had their memorial service for the boys, and basically my documentary project is at a standstill, and you know, I put about a year's worth of work into this, and now that the guys are, I guess, gone from us now, it's a project that I guess I'm just going to have to put onto the shelf, and it's been almost a month now, and the snow and all the ice is making it very hard for the rescue workers to get through and see if the bodies are still there. So there's actually no closure just yet. I'm just going to pull out from my archives down here. This is the whole documentary, all of it. I'm going to pull in
one of my favorite shows. This was Grand Theft Bus at Evolve a couple years ago, and the guys give the audience a whole bunch of records, and halfway through, as everybody remembers, people started throwing records back, and basically Grand Theft Bus swore never to play live again after that.
Whoever gets the Bobby Sherman wins something special. Hit the eyes. They don't need them. They suck. My one skin is for my two skin.
Yes, speaking.
Hey, Scott, this is Greg. I was just wondering if you guys had any information for me about the fire and the bodies.
Actually, Greg, I was just meaning to call you. Just got some information from the fire department and our forensics unit. Greg, there was no bodies there.
Really?
Yes.
Cool. Let's go records up, please. Yeah. Cool. I love it. So cool. Awesome. That was wicked.
You know, the members are still missing, so we put out an APB on Grand Theft Bus, and it'll go all across Canada with attempts to locate them.
So the guys are missing them?
Yes, well, right now they're classified as missing, but at least we know there's a possibility that they'll still be around. So that in itself is good news. However, we're still investigating their missing status.
After word got out that there were no bodies found in the rubble of the fire, speculation began to mount that this was yet another Grand Theft stunt. Would the band fake their own death? Experts admitted they could not rule out the possibility that this was yet another publicity stunt designed to sell copies of the band's new record.
They ducked out early. We were staying here at the studio. They were in for 3 weeks. You know, just kind of established a bit of a rapport, a friendship, if you will. As well as much of a friendship as anybody can get with these guys. I mean, they're so damn hurtful. They took it. They took the whole album. It was in here. I don't think they're dead. No, I think they're probably ripping off another studio. I mean, they never even paid for the time that they were here. They were supposed to cut me a check on the last day. Well, the last day happened to be the day before the last day. And, you know, not only did they rip me off and and then steal, stole business away from me. They also stole the. I can't even do anything with the with the material. It's not like I have any leverage at all, to hold against these guys. They came in here. They recorded for 3 weeks. They slept here. They drank my coffee. Bob wore my hat.
At the beginning of this documentary process, and prior to the band's disappearance, filmmaker Greg Hemmings hired his photographer brother Mark to travel to Japan to make a video for Grand Theft Bus's song Photograph.
Hey, Greg.
How's the video coming?
Oh, it's going pretty good. Yeah, I'm almost done.
Now, you shot this video in Japan.
When Grand Theft Bus was playing in Tokyo, I was filming them. So I thought, because I had a lot of friends in Japan, the main star, of course, lives in Tokyo. So I thought, why not shoot the video there at the same time, because I had a lot of free time.
The making of the video was to coincide with Grand Theft Bus's well-received Asian tour of 2002.
So you're renting a van in Japan. Yep. On our way to Nagano. Tell me about Japan. How did this little thing come through?
Well, it's funny. I'll tell you about the van first. We had a hell of a time. As you know, people drive on the right-hand side of the steering wheel is usually on the right-hand side of the van in Japan, and we had a hell of a time. We actually had to get one shipped over from North America to accommodate us being used to driving on the left side of the vehicle. Well, we're going to try a couple of these. We're going to warm them up with the band first, and hopefully they like it. And then we're going to try and a bit of the stunts that we've been pulling at home. We're going to try and pull those over on the Japanese people as well to see what happens. I'm not so sure they're used to it, so we'll see what the reaction's like, but it'll be interesting.
The shows have been fantastic. People have been so supportive, and I don't know what's happened to us over here. It seems we're really trying to respect the fans as opposed to what we do in North America. I don't know if it has to do with the 12-hour time difference, but everything's happy, happy, joy, joy over here, and it's really nice. Yeah, people have been great.
1, 2. Check 1, 2. Thank you for being patient for our sound check. Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2, 3. Check 1, 2, 3. Check 1, 2. Checking 1, 2, 3. Check 1, 2.
Thanks for coming, Japan. We greatly appreciate it. The water's great here. The rivers aren't true.
This funny looking sausage.
Ono-san, Grand Theft Bus を見た？
あ、見た。すごい良かったよ。もうみんな盛り上がってて、もうめちゃくちゃ面白かった。ぜひ皆さんも見た方がいいと思う。
はい。X も行ったし、アブダビも行ったし、ハンガリーも行ったし。Make me cool, make me horny. グランセパス最高。
このバルは名前なんですか？
このバー、
いや、
this bar、カウンゼロ。
はい。
カウンゼロです。
名前は？
誠です。
はい。グランドセフトバスを見ましたか？
見ました。すっごい良かったですね。日本にはあんまりいないんですけど、日本にもこういうバンドがいたらいいなと思って、グランドフェスも最高。
After 4 months with no band and no budget, filmmaker Greg Hemmings was forced to move on to new projects.
Okay, Mark. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to, I just set the background. Right when I call action, all I want you to do is put your foot up like this, and then start playing your song. But do it right when I call action, okay? And action. Mark, just one second. What? Another one? I want to get this done. Okay, we'll be done in a second. Okay. Hey.
Hi there. Hi. I'm sorry if I'm interrupting you.
Yeah.
Sorry for that. I'm just actually here to ask how things are going.
Like with the DVD?
Yeah.
It's been on hold for a couple of months just because since it went missing, I've had really nothing to shoot. Yeah. Did you want to go inside, Bob?
Sure.
Okay, welcome to our place here, Andy. This is my secretary, Glenn, over here.
Hi, Andrew. How are you?
Good, good.
Pleased to meet you.
Yeah, good to meet you.
Andrew is part of the Grand Theft Bus fan club, the president.
Oh, really? Seriously? Well, you must be a busy guy.
Well, I was. I'm kind of out of work right now.
So, because of the whole thing with them going missing, the reason I'm not doing that project.
Oh, I suppose that would have an effect of some sort.
You're doing great, Booster.
Okay, thanks.
Sort of at a loss right now because the boys are gone, and a lot of people are, you know, starting to they're not renewing their memberships anymore. So I thought maybe I'll come here and see what you've got going on, and maybe if I can help out.
Do you have any camera experience? Or?
No, I did go into a bit of a depression, but
After 4 months stuck in a creative rut, Hemmings finds new inspiration in sidekick Andrew Tidby. The two decide to work together to find the truth of what happened to Bob, Tim, Graeme, and
it
Dennis.
keeps me occupied. You know, I need to be occupied, or otherwise I'll kind of fall to the bottle again. Really?
Lake wallow, 'cause I'm swimming for sure. No sure miss Lake wallow, but I've missed you more. I'm on the outside. I'm looking in, but you on the inside, and I want in. Hear how I stutter, hear how I stray. It helps me deliver the cell phone.
Hemmings and Tidby have come across new evidence that Grand Theft Bus may have been alive after the fire. News comes to them that the foursome may have been staying in Forest City with friends near the Maine border.
Why don't you guys tell me a little bit about your experience with Grand Theft Bus 9 months ago?
My sister and I just work on this farm, and these guys showed up and asked for a place to stay. It all happened when Natalie shacked up with Graeme here one night, and I shacked up with Tim. His name was Tim. I shacked up with Tim. No, I shacked up with Tim.
Guten Morgen. Ich habe mir eine Liste gemacht, was heute zu tun ist. Und der Stall muss sauber gemacht werden. Viel arbeiten könnt ihr nicht in eurem Zustand. We call it now the Grand Theft Barn because they stole the virginity of my farm workers. Like for one thing. Yeah.
Did they help around the farm at all?
Not really, except they took care of my farm girls, if they can call it help.
I prefer to refer to them as acquaintances now.
From friends?
Yeah, we get along much better since she calls them acquaintances.
This is Forest City, believe it or not. Forest City, a beautiful small community here. 11 people total, but right on the border. Here we have.
So that's the United States right there.
Right over there. See the truck. See the flashing lights and the stop gate.
I'll get a little close up on here.
Yeah, that's US of A. A beautiful little quiet community. I mean, that's why we chose to be here.
Very peaceful town.
Except one night. One night, yeah, just a little while ago. We woke up, dog barking, and ruckus. I mean, we don't usually have a ruckus here unless we're causing it. And
very disturbing.
Four guys came running through the yard, through the porch here. You know, they must have been wanting to get across the border or get away from somebody. I don't know. You know, this certainly isn't a bus stop, that's for sure. You know, they weren't here for that.
The filmmakers have discovered new evidence through local motocross enthusiast Jay Blanchard, which comes in the form of a new DVD from motocross legend Marty Smith. The soundtrack contains music by The Development and was recorded in California after the disappearance of Grand Theft Bus.
Was it on manual all day? When did you put it on manual?
2 seconds ago.
Why'd you do that?
Because on the other side, Andrew, it was so bright, I had to change it.
Well, wouldn't the automatic come in?
Well, your face is underexposed.
Look, you don't have to talk to me like that.
Well, you're asking me in a derogatory way.
No, I'm not. I'm just asking you because I want to learn. I just want to learn. You know? And all you do is like, you just talk to me like you're being so hurtful.
It's not true, Andrew. It's just I'm not used to having people come along with me on my documentary trips. But anyway, I appreciate your help for what you're doing. Anyway, awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
Your camera work is doing good.
Okay. What are we doing?
What?
What are we doing?
What are we doing right now?
Yeah.
Where do you want us? We're in San Diego looking for Grand Theft Bus.
I know that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tomorrow we're gonna go meet up with Marty Smith. I got his phone number today, so we're gonna go through his track and talk to him about the DVD.
He wades through thoughts of her as he lays there.
Marty Smith was AMA National Motocross Champion in 1974 and 1975. Hemmings and Tidby were able to speak with him at his track just outside San Diego.
Marty, tell me a little bit about your project and how you found Grand Theft Bus.
Well, we just shot Marty Smith motocross video, and it's really hard to find good music, and it's really expensive on top of that. And I went to my friend Steve's wedding not too long ago, and there was a group there playing. They were rocking, and I really liked their music, and I asked them if we could use their music for the video, and they said for sure. So they're in our video, and they were rocking.
So I'm looking everywhere for these guys. You know, I found you, but like, where are they? Have you talked to them in a while? Or?
Last I heard, they were living in Alpine, California in the Country Inn.
Living in a hotel?
Yeah, living in a hotel.
Jeez.
Playing in the laundry room at night.
The Country Inn. This is definitely the place.
We had a dream. She was plastic.
We just got a room in 324.
Yep.
And it turns out there's a girl that's been living there for about a month and a half,
next door, which is 322, and Grand Theft Bus actually stayed in 324 for like a couple weeks apparently.
It's the stupidest knock.
It's gotta be friendly, Andrew. You don't want to make people nervous.
No, Greg, knock again, but do it right.
How would you knock? There's nothing to that knock. She's not here. You're right.
All right.
We're gonna have to go. We'll come back later today.
All right. Okay.
When you're lying, you know I never can tell. Without trying, you got me living in hell. Sometimes I feel just a little content. Then you say something so we can leave. Thought you had the best of me, you were wrong. I thought you were the death of me, I was wrong. Now you got the rest of me, and I was strong. Now you're not the best of me anymore.
Hi.
Hi.
Are you Melissa?
Yeah? Who are you?
I'm Greg.
Hey, Greg.
And the guy with the camera is my friend Andrew.
Hi.
It's nothing weird. We're doing a documentary on friends of ours from Canada who have gone missing, and we've been led to you. Grand Theft Bus, Tim and Graeme, Dennis and Bob.
Oh, yeah? Oh, okay.
Do
Yeah.
Can
How do
we-
you guys know them?
Can we come in for a sec? We're not
Oh,
weird.
no.
We just have some questions
I
to
don't
ask.
even
We're
know
just-
you guys, though. You just
Well,
want to
you know,
come in?
Honestly, what we're trying to do right now is we're just trying to find our friends again, and
We're Canadian. It's okay.
And we've been all over the place, and now we're just this is just another step, and everything's kind of led up to this.
You guys are gonna fucking kill me or nothing, are you? I guess. You guys can sit down or
nice
something
place.
if you want. You can
Nice
sit
place.
down.
Can I have some of your beer?
It's kind of warm. Go for
Thank
it.
you. Okay.
Greg, you're an idiot.
I was staying here for like 3 months, and then there's these guys next door. They're always so loud, and they're always waking my baby up and everything. And one day I went over there, to tell them to shut up, and I don't know. Basically, they ended up being really cool. They like LA Guns like me. I'm a big LA Guns fan.
Yeah?
Me and this Bob guy were really close, actually, and Dennis. Me and Dennis got all crazy one night. We went and decided to go get tattoos. See?
You got tattoos?
Yeah, see, look. They were hanging out with these motocross guys, and they were gonna make they were helping to make some video or something, and they kept talking about the Caribbean and trying to make. Hey, babe.
What's going on?
Hi. These are the guys. They're doing a documentary on Bus. Remember the boys next
Hi,
door?
I'm Greg.
Bus.
What's with the camera? This is my friend Andrew, and we're doing a documentary on Grand Theft Bus, the guys that were staying
Remember?
next door.
No movie. Turn the camera off.
Toby.
Wait.
Turn the camera.
Boys, we
Time
can
to
ask
go.
you. We can ask you.
Turn the
a couple
camera
questions.
off. Boys.
Toby. Hey, I'm really sorry. Sorry about that.
Come on, boys. It's time to go.
Okay, well, I'm leaving.
We'll be back at 9:30.
9:30.
Let's go, boys.
Okay, we'll come back
Toby.
at 9:30.
Time to go.
Okay.
Come on, turn the camera.
Okay, it's off.
Sorry,
It's
bye,
off.
guys.
It's off. It's
Okay.
off.
Bye.
Get him.
We're leaving. We're leaving.
What's with that, man?
door's open. Greg. Greg. What the fuck? Oh my God, the gunshot.
Calm down. Tell me everything that happened. Don't leave any details.
All right. Well, I was asleep in the hotel room, and I woke up because I heard some noises, and I asked Greg, "Hey, did you hear that?" And I noticed the door is open, and I turned the light on, and he's gone. I had the camera with me, and I was kind of looking through the apartment, and I hear this gunshot. Went outside, looking around. I didn't see anybody. I went down just a little farther, and I see these two guys pushing a shopping cart, which looked like to be a person in there. And I zoomed in. I was able to actually see it was
Greg. Oh my God. Oh my God. What the? What the? Oh my God. What's going on? Greg.
Okay, so two guys, shopping cart. What kind of vehicle? You said you got a license plate.
It was like a Suburban or something.
Suburban.
Like
You know what color?
It was nighttime. It looked black.
Black Suburban.
Get the license plate. License plate. Get the license plate. License plate. License plate. Focus. 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 Oh no. 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 Get focused.
Master told him he'll put his heart away. All his dreams were when the master told him he'll put his dreams away, his whole heart decayed. Now he's less like a man, more like a mannequin. Now he's less like a man, more like a mannequin. Is it Mayday to be saved? Is it Mayday to be saved? Is it Mayday to be saved? Is it Mayday to be
Thanks very much.
Rubarbicon was never released. Grand Theft Bus never resurfaced, and filmmaker Greg Hemmings was never seen again. This film was completed as a tribute to Graeme, Tim, Bob, and Dennis of Grand Theft Bus, and in the memory of filmmaker Greg Hemmings. Throughout history, many cultures have believed that to have one's photograph taken is to lose one's soul to the camera. It's ironic that throughout this documentary process, 5 souls were lost.
Can you